Hi folks, it's Andy and welcome to this week's Kendo video analysis video. We're going to be looking at the All Japan Kendo Championships that happened last weekend. What a fantastic championships it was. I'm going to be going through some of the Ippons, or the points that were scored throughout the championships. We're going to have a look at them and give them a little bit of a breakdown as to how they happen and stuff like that. If you're new to this series, basically in this video series, I pick up videos from around the internet and I take you through my own journey of sort of Mitori Geiko really, with what I'm watching, what I'm getting from it, and what I'm kind of learning as I watch, okay? Because I think Mitori Geiko is a really important aspect of Kendo practice, and we really need to focus on it if we want to improve. So I'm doing my best to help everybody do that by taking you through my own journey, as it were, whilst doing so. Before we get stuck in though, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, all that sort of thing. Join the Kendo Show Early Access group. It's a really great place to post questions and stuff for me that I will answer in the Kendo Rant episodes that we do. We put one up yesterday. They go up every Thursday at the moment. There's a link in the description down below where you can join that group for free. It's a really great community, so go and get involved in that. Finally, don't forget to support the channel if you like the videos that I'm putting out. If they do bring you any value at all, then please do your Kendo shopping at KendoStar.com. That's my website, of course. That's my company that provides fantastic, wonderful, amazing, the best in the world Kendo equipment designed by myself, specifically for the Kendo community of the world. It's really great stuff. Go and check out our Trustpilot reviews. You'll see we're the best. We're the best in the galaxy, and our customers agree. So go and shop there. I'm sure you wouldn't be watching all these free videos from me and not shopping there anyway. So I'm sure I don't need to say that. Anyway, let's get stuck into these Ippons and see where we're at. Now, this video that we're looking at today is, I'm starting with the round 3 to final Ippons. So I'm not starting from round 1. I mean, it's too much content to go through in one of these videos. I don't want to make it a mammoth video. So we're starting at round 3. Okay, so we've already got through the first stage of the tournament and we're into the upper levels. This is the official video put out by the All Japan Kendo Federation. Their channel's down here. You should go and subscribe to that, definitely, without a doubt. And yeah, let's get stuck right in. So we've got the first match we're looking at here from the third round is Yasuki Maeda, member of the Japanese team from the last World Championships, actually, versus Kosei Haraguchi from Saga Prefecture. Let's have a look. Okay, so we've got quite a tense exchange between the two going on. Very strong semi-eye from both of them. A lot of pressure from Maeda though, going forward. Oh wow, lovely Devanemen. Let's look at that, because there's a great example there of taking the sen. Okay. So what happens here, I'll just go back a little bit. You can see here, right, we've got this very tense moment between the two of them. And there's that one split second where Mr. Maeda on the left, the red player here, steps in good like this, puts that extra bit of pressure on, and that's where he's taken the initiative. He's taken that sen. His opponent, Mr. Haraguchi, has kind of seen that, started to try and take the center back. But he is reacting to the movements of Mr. Maeda there. And he starts to go, but he succumbs to one of the 4 sicknesses, hesitation. We talked about that in the Kendo rant yesterday. But he sort of gives up on it halfway through, like this, because he's already had the initiative stolen from him. And Mr. Maeda is able to make that wonderful men strike there, just like that. Wonderful. Clean textbook men strike. Let's watch it again in full speed. There he takes it, men. Yeah? Very, very subtle at this level. Very, very subtle. But it's there. I'm going to skip on so we can get straight to the points. This is quite a long video. So we've got a very similar situation to previous. And now something very interesting is happening here. Something very interesting happening here, actually, I think. Yeah, that's what I thought was coming. So, right from this exchange, Mr. Maeda here on the left is drawing backwards. All right, he's drawing backwards. And I think this is intentional. And his opponent is getting the impression that he is getting the upper hand here with his own semi, and he's getting more and more encouragement from Mr. Maeda to make a strike. So they keep coming backwards this way. Mr. Maeda keeps coming backwards this way. So come on, like this. And Mr. Haraguchi is like, yes, I've got the upper hand here. I'm going to win. And he gets more and more excited, ready to make a strike. And it's there that you see how he makes that very final step backwards here. What's interesting is he takes the sen in very much the same way as previously, as he did in the previous Ippon. Okay, so you can see it just about here. Okay, very, very subtle. Yeah, you can see how his foot and his shinai move together. Here is where he's taken that initiative there, and his opponent hasn't quite realized that. And whilst keeping hold of it, he's made that final step back to draw him in, that last bit, just enough to push him over the edge to invite that strike. And now he's spilt over. He's gone past the point of no return now. He's got to make a strike. But Mr. Maeda here is already one step ahead of him and makes that men strike there. Very, very intricate series of events there for that Ippon. I really, really like that. It's very very complex, but looks super simple. Beautiful. Okay. All right. So now we've got Mr. Shaw from the Japanese team versus Ryo Goya from Kyoto. Okay, so let's have a look. Wow, beautiful Kaishido. So this very textbook Kaishido. Lots of people make the mistake with Kaishido of staying still, blocking and then hitting, or even leaning backwards because they're worried about the space. The big sort of thing that messes with your head with Kaishido, and the same with Nukido, is you have to go forward to score that waza. Yeah, you go forward, do, this way. And if you watch Mr. Ando here, it's exactly what he does. Forward, do. Yeah, and the reason for that is because, again, he's letting his opponent think he's coming for men, and his opponent's going to try and do a Debana men or an I men in response to that. Okay, he's taking that initiative and he's coming. I'm coming for men, and his opponent's going, oh, he's coming for men, and he tries to hit men in response, but actually he'd set up that Kaishido this way. Okay, so you have to go forward. Come on, bam, Kaishido this way. Okay, that's just textbook. Absolutely beautiful. Next one, we've got Mr. Kosumi versus Mr. Hatakenaka from Tokyo again. Oh yeah, Mr. Hatakenaka is the Japanese team member too, right? I think Mr. Hatakenaka did very, very well in this tournament. He came very close. I know he hasn't won it yet, but I think his time's coming. A solid Tsubazari eye. It's a good point here. I'm just going back to this. It's not an Ippon, but look, the interaction that we're having at Tsubazari eye, right? This is something that you don't see so often outside of Japan. I think it's often neglected, is that interaction in Tsubazari eye. You're still fighting at Tsubazari eye. You're still applying semi, still trying to take the initiative. Oh, degote. It was like a really small degote, wasn't it? It was fantastic. Let's watch it in slow and see what happens. So, what's interesting here is, I think Mr. Kosumi is quite keen to lift up his hands here, and I think that's a sort of red flag really to Mr. Hatakenaka thinking, okay, his kote is open, and he's made fantastic use of that opening that was given to him. What's super important is look at the size of his strike. Look at the size of his strike. It's very small, yeah? It's very small. But look at the shape of his hands. They don't move so much. Yeah, it's like that much. When lots of us, when we try to do the Debana Kote, we might try and lift this way. What's important is the way that he's using his wrists as he makes the strike for Tenuchi, but not forgetting that his opponent's arms are coming up at the same time. So as his arms are coming up, the Kote is coming down on his raised arms, and that's what allows him to get that sharp strike at the same time, and allows him to make that sharp strike in that very, very tiny space of time. Fantastic, beautiful day. Next one. So we've got Mr. Yamamoto from Chiba and Mr. Kunitomo from Fukuoka. Again, solid Tsubazeriai. Not just relaxing, not just trying to escape. Whoa. Wow. So, from separating from Tsubazeriai, Mr. Kunitomo starts putting the pressure on early, okay? And Mr. Yamamoto here starts to crack. He's completely overwhelming him here with strong forward semi. But if you watch as well, it's obviously likely that he's going to come for men. However, it's also quite clear that Mr. Yamamoto here is unlikely to be in a position to do any sort of retaliation or any sort of Ojiwaza or Debanowaza. I think the likelihood is, because of the way he's responding to the pressure from Mr. Kunitomo here, his only choice is to try and defend himself, which is exactly what happens, which is why after the first men is, I'm not sure this is 100% men anyway, this is really to get his hands up there so that he can bring the shinai around the other side to make that strike, to get around that defense, yeah? Pressure here, forward, hands come up. He uses that first strike to get the hands fully up there where he wants them, and then he comes around the shinai for that wonderful Ippon men. Okay, next we've got Ryohei Yamada from Hokkaido, again, a former member of the Japanese national team, against Kenshiro Matsuzaki from Ibaraki. He's a university student. Solid Tsubazeriai, not relaxed, still fighting. Important point to take away from this, I think. It's not the time to take a rest. Oh, wow. Now, Mr. Matsuzaki's main strikes throughout the tournament were absolutely excellent. And what he's managed to do here, he's got a very solid kamae. And you see how he's raised his hands there. This is very, very complicated, but you need very good flexibility in your wrist to do this. Yeah, he's brought his hands up here first. Yeah, I've talked about this in the past, bringing this hands up this way to get the other person's hands up. And in the previous videos we've watched, they've brought it up here and then they've brought it down to kote, haven't they? We've seen that before. Here, kote, when the hands come up to meet them. Kote like this, we've seen that being successful. And what Mr. Matsuzaki's done here, he's taken that a step further, because after bringing the hands up, he's moved his hands round then this way, as if he's going to make that kote strike, which made his opponent, Yamada, bring his arms down a bit because he doesn't want to lose that kote. And then he's brought it straight again, and that's just really blown his mind, to be honest. And he's like, doesn't know what's going to happen. So he, and like from there, he's kind of made that straight men immediately after that. So it's from a sort of series of feints, for want of a better word. He comes up this way, shows for kote, shows for men. Most people aren't able to attack at this point. Yeah, after they do this sort of thing, most people think, okay, probably an attack's not coming now. And that's the judgment call that Mr. Yamada made here, but he was wrong, unfortunately. And by the time he tried to bring his shinai back to defend it, it was too late, and he just received that wonderful men strike. Let's watch it again in full speed. That requires a lot of wrist flexibility, I have to say, to make it convincing. Yeah. So Mr. Morihara from Hiroshima against Mr. Takenouchi, again a regular of the Japanese national team. It's a point we see a lot from Mr. Takenouchi, actually. After a failed kote strike, he makes an immediate men strike, like a kaishi men. It's not quite kote kaishi men because he hasn't really defended the kote. It's that the opponent's kote, as you can see here, is not on target. It's not good enough kote for Ippon, and he immediately makes a return strike to the men. And what's very interesting here is he's able to make that strike with a slightly unorthodox position of his hands, because that's what he has to do in order to make the strike accurate. This doesn't negate Ippon, okay? This doesn't negate Ippon if he's able to make a strike that's still sharp and fulfills the rest of the criteria for Yuko Datotsu. For the most part, you need to have your left hand in the middle to fulfill the criteria of Yuko Datotsu and have good tenuchi. However, Mr. Takenouchi is a good example here of how sometimes that rule can be broken in order to still fulfill those criteria. And the three Shimpan, who are obviously Hanshi Hachidan, also seem to agree. So that was a great man. And from the same match, it looks like we have a Hansoku for Mr. Morishima. Is that for dropping the shinai? I think. Yeah, dropping the shinai. Solid tsubazariai. Both of these players very tall, actually. Oh. Okay, so that was a very clear textbook kote here. What we have is Mr. Takenouchi steps forward and he takes a strong position on the center here. And like I say, Mr. Takenouchi is a very tall player, very well known for his men strikes, especially his Tobikomi men. So I'm sure, I mean, if you're stood in front of Mr. Takenouchi in this position, you're going to think that he's coming for your men, which is exactly what he wanted. All he needed was that couple of centimeters lift from Mr. Morishima to give him a route to kote there, which he got. Beautiful kote, fantastic. Notice how, let's just watch it again in full speed. Notice how the beginning of his kote strike, looks like a men strike. Yeah. Up to here, up to this point, this looks like it could be a men strike or a kote strike. That's vital for successful kote waza. Fantastic kote. Beautiful. So next we have Mr. Takeshita from Oita. He was on the national team as well for the last World Championships versus Mr. Nakazawa from Kochi Prefecture. Solid Tsubazariai again. Stepping back with caution, not just relaxed and trying to escape. Wow. That is a difficult Ippon. That's a difficult waza. That's a very difficult waza. I see lots of people try to do this waza, but it's very, very difficult, all right? His opponent's coming for a men strike. He's used his footwork to avoid it. Okay, so this is kind of men nuki kote, isn't it? As he's stepped back, he's been able to make a solid strike to the kote here. And that's because he's got amazing footwork. Yeah, his ash sabaki is solid. That allows him to make a powerful strike whilst going backwards, drawing backwards, and bam, hitting kote that is solid enough for Ippon. Most people that try this waza, the kote is a bit flat. It's a bit sort of like, it's not quite good enough for Ippon. It's usually a little bit soft because they haven't got the actual ash sabaki to back up the full kentai no ichi. Let's watch it again. But you can hear it, what a solid kote strike that was. Reminds me of Eiga Sensei versus Miyazaki Sensei back in the day when Eiga Sensei did that same sort of waza. Oh, brilliant. So here he's taken advantage of, we've got quite an energetic exchange of semi here, but he's taken advantage of that sort of lack of kamae on behalf of his opponent, and he's made a strike straight to his men very quickly, and seized an opportunity that was probably only there for a millisecond. Wonderful. And that means we're back on level now, so we're on Shobu, right? Managed to take a point back. Okay, again, solid interaction at Tsubazari. Oh, good. But this is what I'm saying, right? You lose concentration for 1 split second, and you lose a point. You lose a point. And that's exactly what happened here. They thought they were about to separate, and at that very second, Mr. Takeshita took a step forward for his Hikimen. Now, that's an unusual sort of process for Hikimen. Lots of us think of Hikimen as kind of a jump back as we try to hit. That's a lower level Hikimen, as you jump back and hit. Actually, for me, the sort of higher level Hikiwaza is you hit forward and go back this way. Yeah, forward and go back this way, not jump back and try to hit at the same time like that. Yeah, bam, this way. And that's kind of what he's done here, but he's actually gone even more forward than you would normally do. So obviously, if you did that at normal Tsubazari distance, you'd be far too close. But this time they were sort of separating, so he needed that extra couple of centimeters to come in as he made that Hikimen. Fabulous. Right, next one, Mr. Tsuchitani versus Mr. Adachi. Mr. Adachi was playing fantastically throughout the whole tournament, as was Mr. Tsuchitani, though, to be fair. Ooh, brilliant. So again, this is the importance of Ashisabaki, especially the drawing up of the left leg, that Hikitsuke Ashi, okay? He makes a strike first. His opponent retreats. Mr. Tsuchitani retreats. But because he's bringing his left leg up with him immediately, he's able to make a second strike without preparing his left leg. Most of us struggle with this because after making the first strike, our left foot isn't in the position to make another strike. We have to prepare it again to make another strike. But that isn't the case for him. So he's able to take advantage of this split second opportunity where Mr. Tsuchitani's guard's down. And he makes that fantastic many bomb. That's all about having fantastic basics. Yeah. These guys are top level players, but they're not winning these Shiai with fancy waza. Yeah, they're not doing lots of course, sometimes there are advanced waza used, but they're not doing anything that's particularly overly flashy or unusual in terms of waza. It's all about how they're applying their basics to their Shiai. And it's beautiful, clean kendo. So here we've got Mr. Maeda versus Mr. Randol, both members of the national team from the previous World Championships. There we have that similar men strike from before. Yeah, he just takes that initiative. He adjusts his distance and takes the initiative there. And Mr. Randol tries to, very similar to the previous match from Mr. Maeda, yeah. The previous opponent also tried to defend his shinai, control his shinai this way, but wasn't able to. By the time he realized it was too late, he bailed on the idea of trying to strike men first, tried to defend himself, but was just too late. He was just a step behind. Fantastic men Ippon. And from the same match, what have we got going on here? Let's skip to the Ippon. Oh, so very strong semi from Ando here. But Mr. Maeda uses that very same tactic that he used for his second Ippon in the previous match as well, where he was drawing his opponent forward. Okay, come on then. And Mr. Ando is like, okay, I'm gonna win you. I'm gonna win here. I'm gonna hit your men. He's coming forward that very strong semi, and at that moment where Mr. Ando thinks that he's got the upper hand, he launches the men strike. But do you see here? Watch this. Watch Mr. Maeda's feet. This is how he presses the start button on Mr. Ando's men. He takes that step forward here. Come on then, and Mr. Ando launches that men strike, but receives the kote strike. Because it was a trap all along. Fantastic, well-planned, well-executed waza. Watch the flow of it again. Back, forward. Back, forward, kote. Yeah, beautiful setup for Devana waza. So here we have Mr. Hatakenaka versus Mr. Kunitomo. This is a very excellent match. I remember watching this at the time. Two excellent players. Oh, and we start off with a brilliant degote from Mr. Kunitomo. So again, it's very similar to the previous one from Mr. Hatakenaka, from Mr. Maeda, isn't it? Where he steps forward. The big problem lots of us make with degote is we leave ourselves on the spot. When we see them coming for men, we try to hit kote like this on the spot, kote like that. And that's not how you need to do it. It's a lot like the kaishido that I talked about earlier from Mr. Ando. You have to push forward, seme kote, or seme debana men, seme nukido. Yeah, it all comes from your taking of the sen, taking of the initiative. Sa, pound, this way, okay? They're technical terms, by the way. We watch again. There, you see, look how he's coming forward. Exactly as I just said. Here, that invites a men strike from Mr. Hatakenaka and gives him that chance for that beautiful, perfect degote. Which is a waza he was rocking all day, to be fair. Next Ippon from these two. Try for men there. That was lovely, wasn't it? So here, he's made a lot of impact on his opponent here with his seme, Mr. Hatakenaka. He dips the shinai down, which basically is I've said this before, it's a common practice. People often dip the shinai down before they come for men, which is why Mr. Kunitomo has thought that he's coming for men and he's gone for that. Mr. Kunitomo here is trying to set up that degote again. You see how his foot's coming forward, ready for that degote? He's trying to do the same one that he did before. However, this time, Mr. Hatakenaka is not having it, and he's gone straight in for that tsuki, and it's bang on target. Bang on target. Wonderful tsuki. And look here as well. This is a mistake lots of people make with ski. They leave their left foot trailing behind, but he properly brings it up behind him. Yeah. Fantastic ski. I think this was the only ski in the tournament, if I remember correctly. It was a good example of ski. And the last Ippon in this match is great. That wasn't a clear Ippon, all right? So that's why there's a bit of hesitation from the referees. It's normal. It's not in any way a reflection on their ability at all. These senseis are amazing senseis, all three of them. So we have... This is very interesting, all right? So they've come to this sort of deadlock here. They've both got their hands up. Mr. Kunitomo's come for that brilliant men, and Mr. Hatakenaka has gone for degote. But it hasn't quite been able to make that degote good enough. But the men was clean and clear. And that's why I believe the Shimpan decided to award the men rather than the kote. Seems to me. So you have two waza that happen at the same time there. You see, you have a kote, you have a men strike, and one of them is Ippon. Yeah. And again, I think that's one of the reasons. This is an excellent shimpanning from these two referees, actually. That's why it took them a second or two just to reevaluate what just happened. Yeah, that was men. I'm sure that is exactly what was going on. So Mr. Matsuzaki and Mr. Takenoichi here. Mr. Matsuzaki is currently a student at the university that Mr. Takenoichi graduated from. So he nearly had that men strike that he did before after kote strike, Mr. Takenoichi. Oof, where he took a men strike there instead. So here we have a deadlock again. The hands both come up here, and it looks like this is very interesting here. They both have their hands up here, and Mr. Takenoichi starts to lower his hands, which causes Mr. Matsuzaki to lower his as well. But actually, it was only a sort of ploy, really, to get him to bring those hands down, open up his defenses, and give him that space for that men strike. And the next one. Wow. Very powerful men strike, not quite on target though. He's tried to come around. This isn't Ippon, but he's tried to come around the side there. He's tried to come and hit the men, but not quite on target. Wow, look at that one. That was just a textbook straight from Kamae. So here, Mr. Matsuzaki has just come with a straight, brilliant tobikomi man. You see how I was talking about lowering the shinai before men strike? This is the kind of textbook style men. Well, Mr. Takenoichi here has just been a little bit too slow to respond to him. He's totally had the initiative stolen from him, and he isn't able to respond in time. He was just switched off at that very second. This is called the Aite ga itsuita tokoro, where they've just switched off at that very second. And he's, like this. He's received a strike. Ooh, nearly went out. See if we can get to the point. Wow. So basically, this is very much the same as the first, the previous men strike that he got. He's on the same sort of waza. Often you have this in kendo. You have sometimes you find people that manage to find a gap in your timing. They're able to sort of locate that specific point where you're just in between thoughts or whatever. And I think that's what's happened here in this particular shiai. It's great when it happens to you, as obviously it's a great chance to highlight something that other people haven't been able to highlight in you so far. I think this is a great chance for Mr. Takenoichi to go on and improve even more, and I'm absolutely sure that he will. So Mr. Adachi and Mr. Takeshita here, both players doing extremely well throughout the tournament. What a great kote from Mr. Takeshita. So what he's done here, it came from a place of quite a lot of pressure. Mr. Adachi is on the back foot there. He's hit the shinai like a kind of harai. He's brought his hands right up here, and he's really sold him on this men strike. So he thinks he's coming for men. His hands have come up that little bit that he needs to give him that wonderful kote strike. Very nice kote. Mr. Maeda, Mr. Kunitomo in the semifinals. Amazing. So here, what I like about this Ippon is this is actually the Ippon, the exact same sort of waza that Mr. Maeda was using throughout the tournament. Mr. Kunitomo has actually done it on himself. Has turned it around and done it on Mr. Maeda. Yeah, he's taken that initiative. Mr. Maeda is unsure what's going on. He's tried to control the Shinai here. He's sort of hesitated a bit to be able to launch an attack of his own, and because of that, has been unable to respond. Wonderful. From the same match. Solid Subazeri again. And there's that beautiful degote from Mr. Kunitomo. So again, I'm sure we'll see. Here, he starts to take the initiative. He's coming forward, and he's really trying to push that start button on Mr. Maeda's men. Bam, there, kote. Fantastic. So now we've got Mr. Takeshita and Mr. Matsuzaki. Another semi-final. Ooh, it happened quickly. There's that men again. I think, do you know what it is? I think he's hitting a lot of them with this because it's got a bit of an unusual timing at this level. Unlike a lot of competitors at this level, they try to find that chance, they get that, they take the center and then bam, like that. His men has got a little bit of a delayed timing. Instead of kind of getting that opportunity and going bam like this, he's going bam like that. So there's a slight delay to it, which I think is just catching a few people off guard. If we watch it again, it's got a very slight. I'm only talking a split second, right? But it does have a somewhat different timing to the majority of the people on the scene, and I think that's what's catching a lot of people out here. And that definitely happens a lot. You know, I think these guys, they get into a rhythm in the way of each other's kendo, and he's come in and broken that. I mean, that's a really great thing. He can only do good things for the scene. Amazing. I think it's because he dips that Shinai right down almost to Gedan, isn't it? And then, man, fantastic. And now we're in the final, last one. Between Mr. Matsuzaki and Mr. Kunitomo. Let's skip to the Ippon. I'm sure most of us have seen this Ippon by now, but you can never see it enough, can you? It's just wonderful. Now, this degote is the exact same one that he's been using all day, all right? Watch his footwork. It's not about what he's doing with his hands. His hands are important too, but if we watch his feet, he's coming forward with his feet first, and he's creating that chance for a strike. Mr. Matsuzaki here realizes halfway through, that he's had the start button pressed on his Menichi, and he's tried to bail out like that. That's that hesitation kicking in again that we talked about, but it's too late. It's just too late. Yeah, it's all about how Mr. Kunitomo there has taken the initiative, and he's really controlled Mr. Matsuzaki into responding to his movements rather than doing the kendo that he wants to do by himself. Yeah, he's got him to come for men, realize it's a trap. He's tried to bail out, but he's just not in time. Yeah, he's just not in time. So he's tried to defend it, but he just wasn't quick enough. And you can't be quick enough. Yeah, he's already a step ahead in terms of his semi, in terms of his capturing of the sen. Let's watch it one more time. Forward, kote. Fantastic kote bomb. Brilliant. And that was the end. That's all of them from the third round through to the final. I know this was a bit of a longer video than normal. It's a little bit, of a special one because it was the All Japan Championships. Also, I am aware I didn't actually put one of these videos up last week, so you've got two videos in one, really. So I hope you enjoyed. What did you think? Leave me a comment down below. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, join the Kendo Show Early Access group, and shop at KendoStar. See you all next time. Bye-bye.